that Flacco is one of the quarterbacks available. Another team that inquired about Flacco is the Washington Redskins, but they have obvious cap issues, having to fit in Alex Smith's contract, and so Denver forged ahead and was able to reach an agreement in principle with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, their intent is to trade him to Denver. That is the expectation. They cannot process that. The teams are not allowed to discuss compensation. They're not allowed to agree on compensation, but when the trade goes down in March, I think it'll be somewhere around a mid-round draft pick that goes in return for Joe Flacco.
All right, so you explained the existing relationship for us. Flacco has struggled since being named the MVP of Super Bowl 47, failing to live up to expectations in short, Adam. So what are the Broncos hoping he can provide in Denver?
Listen, they want to win, and they think that their defense is good enough to win now. So they obviously were not willing to go get a young rookie quarterback to go build around in the draft. You go look at the quarterbacks in this draft. They were at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. They got a glimpse of those quarterbacks. Obviously, none of them impressed them to the point where they thought that they were going to use a first-round pick. And when they get back from the Senior Bowl, they begin their efforts to see which veteran quarterback would make the most sense. They identified Flacco as a guy that they were interested in. And when we look at the quarterback dominoes this offseason, there are a few of them. Joe Flacco, Nick Foles, Ryan Tannehill, Blake Bortles, Tyrod Taylor. Those are the veterans who are out there and available. And the Broncos decided to set in motion a chain of events that wound up in that agreement in principle with them landing Joe Flacco from the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, well, let's talk about Case Keenum. He started all 16 games for the Broncos last season after being signed in free agency. What will be next for him?
I think his future now is up in the air. I think that's the best way of saying it, Kerry. We don't know whether the Broncos will keep him, rework his contract, try to trade him. I think a lot will depend on who has interest, if anybody else is interested, what they decide to do, how much money they need to save. Again, I think there are no answers right now as to Case Keenum's future. The one thing that we can say is that it's up in the air, it's uncertain, and I don't think the Broncos know at this point in time what they'll wind up doing with Case Keenum, but Joe Flacco is the new expected starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos.
All right, lastly, Lamar Jackson, again, we're saying it looks as if they're officially committed to him, and I know he's on his rookie deal. Can we expect a money term commitment from the Ravens for Lamar Jackson?
Well, no, they can't do that. They're not allowed to give him a new contract until after his third year in the league. But, again, when the season ended, John Harbaugh made it very clear that they were committing to Lamar Jackson going forward. This was the ultimate validation of that they're moving a former Super Bowl MVP that led Baltimore to a Super Bowl title in favor of turning over the offense and the team to a quarterback that they traded up to go get in the back end of the first round. Lamar Jackson took over the starting quarterback job from Joe Flacco last year. He never gave it back up, and he's not going to give it back up now. The fact that they agreed to trade Flacco cements Jackson's status as Baltimore's starting quarterback, but he cannot get a new contract for 2 more years.
For 2 more years. Thank you for making that clear for us. Adam Schefter, our ESPN NFL insider. Meanwhile, Flacco has been paid like an elite quarterback since capping off the 2012 season with a Super Bowl victory, but he has not performed like one. He's just 42-41 as a starter over the last 6 seasons, and his touchdown-interception ratio ranks 34th among 36 quarterbacks that have attempted at least 1,000 passes during that span. David, I'll send it over to you for more context on this deal.
Yeah, Kerry, if you just go last 3 years, Flacco's numbers eerily similar to the guy he's apparently replacing in Denver, Case Keenum. We've got Dan Orlovsky here to talk us through this. So the Broncos obviously feel that giving up a mid-round pick, as Adam reports, that they're getting an upgrade with Flacco over Keenum. Do you see it that way?
I mean, it's certainly an upgrade. I don't know how big of an upgrade it is. It's not much. And I understand that Joe Flacco's Super Bowl MVP, but where they are right now in their careers, Joe Flacco and Case Keenum, they're kind of the same guy. Both guys are going to be relying on their run game and try not to turn the ball over. And Case Keenum did that 2 years ago in Minnesota and wasn't able to do that. Now, Joe Flacco, I will say this. When he's been at his best was under Gary Kubiak in Baltimore as offensive coordinator where, like I said, ran the ball, play action, took shots downfield. Can he get to that player again? Because in Denver, Scangarello is going to be their offensive coordinator. He comes from San Francisco under Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan learned his offense from his father and Gary Kubiak. So there is a tie there of Joe Flacco being comfortable in that offense and trying to replicate some of that success he had under Kubiak. in Baltimore.
He just turned 34 last month. Have you seen any erosion in his skill set? I mean, he's always had a big arm. What have you seen from him?
The biggest, I don't know if there's an erosion in skill. It's more an erosion of, do you want to actually be playing football? Are you completely there, wanting to be that leader, fully invested year in and year out, day after day? It just seems like Joe is kind of pulled back because of the situation from being that Super Bowl MVP and going on that run to where we see him now. He doesn't seem to be the same engaged guy.
Maybe a fresh start in Denver. We shall see about that. The Ravens clearly casting their lot now with Lamar Jackson. And, Dan, we talk a lot about the new NFL and forget about all the old stuff. We talked about that with Kyler Murray. Lamar Jackson did some nice things as a rookie quarterback in the league. Do you see him as the long-term answer in Baltimore?
I don't. I know it's a new NFL, but at the end of the day, the quarterback still needs to be able to throw the ball consistently from the pocket really well. Even the run-around guys like a Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, he throws it from the pocket. Lamar Jackson struggled this year throwing the ball consistently from the pocket, and I understand we can get him on the move, whatnot, but that game against the Chargers has got to be a little bit alarming, that wild card game, because you saw a one-dimensional offense completely shut down by the Chargers. We're going to take Lamar Jackson away as a runner, and you guys can't do anything else, and that could be a blueprint to the rest of the NFL. When you play the Ravens, play with athletes on the field, play with speed on the field, take away his ability to run, and then you minimize their success in offense. Until Lamar Jackson proves that he can be consistently healthy, because we saw him leave games 3 or 4 times this year, and consistently accurate and a weapon or a viable passer from the pocket, you're not going to have long-term success.
Is accuracy one of those things you can acquire as you spend more time in the league?
A little bit, yes, but you're not going to become a guy who I just haven't seen a guy who came into the NFL and you go, man, this guy really struggles to throw the football, and all of a sudden, wow, he can do it. He got that much better in a short period of time. You just don't see it. Guys get a little bit better year by year by year, but you don't change your stripes. You don't go from this guy cannot throw the ball from the pocket game after game to, oh, that's what he does best. That's the thing. Lamar Jackson, his greatest attribute or his greatest weapon is as a runner. The guys that we see that are Baker Mayfields and Patrick Mahomes have kind of taken the league by storm, their greatest attribute is still throwing the football, and then they could just be the athlete. Lamar Jackson's vice versa.
Nonetheless, with this trade news today, Baltimore committing to Lamar Jackson, the quarterback dominoes will start to fall. What does it mean for Case Keenum? We'll get into a little bit more of this coming up later on Coast to Coast. Dan with us right now. Carrie?
All right, David, let's go by the numbers because it looks good for Flacco. He's just the second quarterback to be traded after winning a Super Bowl MVP. He's in good company, though. The other's Joe Montana. In the 2012 playoffs, Flacco threw 11 touchdowns without a pick. That's tied again with Montana for the most touchdowns without a pick in a single postseason. However, here's the problem. It's not a problem. His 212 touchdown passes are the most among players never selected to a Pro Bowl. That's all if you consider it that way, David.
More NFL news. Have we seen the last of Rob Gronkowski on the football field? Gronk, one of the best tight ends and biggest personalities in the league, said after the Super Bowl he'd take some time to consider whether he would retire or not after 9 injury-filled seasons. And now some intel which may shed some light on his decision. Here's Jeff Darlington.
Just like last year at this time, when you speak to people who have spoken to Rob Gronkowski, they say that he continues to lean toward potential retirement. But unlike last year when those people said that give him a few months, let him think this through, get his body right, this time around there isn't that hedging. He has not made that formal decision, something he hasn't put a timetable on, but eventually many around him do believe that he will eventually call it a career.
Gronk turns 30 in May. In NFL history, only Randy Moss and Jerry Rice have had more touchdown catches before turning the age of 30 than Gronk's 79. He's already the Patriots' all-time leader in touchdowns and has the third most all-time by a tight end, trailing only Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez.
Well, David, the Lakers dropped to under 500.